Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. We always love digging into the stuff you guys request, and today's topic is no different. We've been getting a lot of questions about what life is really like after you hit 60,
It's a big one, for sure.
definitely. So to help us navigate this, we're turning to this article, 10 Truths About Life After 60 Years Old, to see if we can unpack some of those big questions. But
Right.
we don't want to just list them off, right?
Yeah.
We want to figure out what they actually mean.
Yeah.
For someone who's maybe getting close to 60 or even just thinking about that chapter down the road, what can we really learn from this?
Right. It's like, how can we actually use these truths to make that chapter even better, more fulfilling?
Exactly. So let's jump right in. Truth number one, right off the bat. Health becomes a priority. Okay, I see where they're going with this, but I think it's easy to get kind of, bummed out when you hear that. Like, oh no, everything's falling apart.
Yeah, I get that. But, reading this article, it's not about decline. It's more about, realizing your body might need a little extra TLC. Like, maybe you need to be more mindful of what you're eating or add in some movement here and there. The cool thing is, even small changes can make a huge difference.
It's like that saying, right? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Totally. They even mention how little things like just making sure you're getting enough fiber or taking short walks can really boost your energy
Yeah,
levels.
those little things add up. Now, speaking of things that add up, truth number two is about time. Time becomes precious. And, well, this one kind of hits home, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's something we all feel, I think. Time seems to speed up as we get older.
For sure. But how do we deal with that? Instead of just kind of panicking about it, how can we actually, I don't know, savor the time we have left?
The article talks about getting really clear on your priorities, what truly matters to you. Because once you know that, it's easier to say no to the stuff that just drains you. They also mention things like time blocking, where you actually schedule in time for the things you love, spending time with family, working on a hobby, even just some quiet time for yourself.
You know what, that time blocking thing, I've heard of that. It's supposed to be super helpful, but it's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and forget to actually do it. All right, let's move on to number three, which is about relationships. The article says that deep connections become more valuable than having a ton of acquaintances. Now, on the one hand, that makes total sense to me. But on the other hand, I'm thinking, doesn't that mean we just end up shutting ourselves off from the world?
Right. And it's a good question. I don't think it's saying we need to ditch all our casual friends or anything. It's more about recognizing where we get the most, I don't know, the most emotional return. Maybe our capacity to juggle massive social circle naturally kind of shrinks a bit.
Right. So maybe it's about choosing quality over quantity when it comes to those connections.
Exactly. Focusing on the relationships that truly nourish us. Okay, number 4. It's never too late to learn. This one really gets me excited.
Me too. And I love that it doesn't have to be anything formal.
Mhm.
It's not about signing up for night classes or anything, unless you want to, of course.
Mm,
It's more about tapping into that natural curiosity we all have.
totally. The article talks about keeping your mind stimulated. And honestly, there are so many ways to do that. Maybe you finally learn that language you've always wanted to speak, or pick up a new instrument, or just dive deep into a historical period that fascinates you. It's really about the pure joy of learning, without the pressure of tests or deadlines.
It's learning for the sake of learning, which honestly is the best way to learn. Okay, let's talk about truth number five, which is about the power of letting go. What are your thoughts on this one?
The article emphasizes how freeing it can be to let go of things as we get older. That could be physical things like decluttering your house or downsizing. Or it could be about releasing toxic relationships, those ones that just zap your energy. The whole point is to create space, both physically and emotionally, for what truly matters now.
Yeah, I love that. It's about shedding what's no longer serving you so you can fully embrace what is, which actually leads perfectly into the next truth. Wisdom comes with experience. I think so often we just think of that as like a nice way of saying you're getting older, but there's real power in that statement, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. Think about it. All those challenges you faced, all the mistakes, all the lessons you've learned along the way, they've shaped who you are today. And that's wisdom you can tap into right now, no matter how old you are.
I love that. It's like we're collecting all these little nuggets of wisdom along the way, and they all add up to this incredible source of strength and guidance. Speaking of things we collect, this next truth is about passion projects.
Mm-hmm.
Things we maybe had to put on hold because of work or family. But now, maybe we have the time and space to revisit them. Is there anything you're thinking about revisiting now that you have a bit more freedom?
You know what? There is. I've always loved writing fiction, but I just never had the time to really dive into it. Between work and, family life, it always got pushed to the back burner. But now that I have more flexibility, I'm thinking about giving it another shot. The article talks about how fulfilling those passion projects can be, how they can give you a renewed sense of purpose.
I totally get that. A friend of mine retired a few years ago, and he finally opened that little woodworking shop he'd always dreamed of. He's never been happier. Okay, let's move on to truth number 8, which is about gratitude.
Yeah.
Now, I know it sounds kind of cheesy, but hear me out. We all know that gratitude is a good thing, right? But how do we actually make it part of our daily lives instead of just like a vague concept?
Yeah, that's the key, isn't it? Turning it into action. It can be as simple as taking a moment to really appreciate your morning coffee or savoring a delicious meal, or just telling someone you appreciate them. It's about actively noticing the good things, even when life gets tough. They even mention that research shows that practicing gratitude can actually improve your mental and emotional well-being.
It's like training your brain to focus on the positive, right?
Mm.
Which I think is especially important as we get older. Because let's face it, life throws a lot of curveballs.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of curveballs, change is a constant, right? But it does seem like things speed up a bit as we get older. How do we deal with all those transitions, like career changes or shifts in family dynamics? It can feel overwhelming sometimes.
Right. It can, but the article actually has a really calming perspective on this. It's not about resisting change, because that's impossible. It's about becoming more adaptable. Because change, even when it's tough, can bring new opportunities. Maybe it's career shift that gives you more flexibility, or finding new ways to stay connected with your loved ones as your family grows and changes.
I love that. It's about seeing change not as something to fear, but as a natural part of life. Which brings us to our final truth, number 10, which is about legacy. Now, when I hear legacy, I think of, statues and buildings. But this is about something much deeper, isn't it?
It is. It's about recognizing that we all leave a mark on the world. Through our interactions with others, through our values, through the stories we share. It's about what we want to pass on, whether it's through mentoring younger people or simply living a life that reflects what we believe in. The article calls it reinforcing our sense of belonging and purpose.
Isn't that what it's all about? Feeling like we're part of something bigger than ourselves?
Yeah.
I think this has been such an insightful conversation. What we've really learned today is that life after 60 isn't just an ending. It's a whole new chapter filled with opportunities for growth, connection, and fulfillment.
Absolutely. And this brings up an important question. We've been talking about what changes after 60, but what can you do now to prepare for that chapter? What steps can you take today to make that future even richer and more meaningful?
That's a fantastic question for all of us to think about. And on that note, we're going to wrap up our deep dive for today. We hope this conversation has given you some food for thought and some inspiration as you navigate this journey called life. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep living each day to the fullest.